I think I would. I think I'd be trying to get those puns into any kind of battle. I do that during Magic all the time when I'm talking to like elementals and things like that. And I usually just kind of get, crickets. But yeah.
Well, they
So
know too well that words are power, Nico.
words are power, but it's the power, not to sound like Cersei Lannister, but the power is the power behind the words. We've already seen the other side of it where it's like, this maelstrom of hysteria and distress and fear, uncertainty, and doubt isn't really going to be taped back together by an affirmation. So that's kind of, words are power, but it's an overstated power. The real power is in the continuity and the coherence of ourselves. Does that make sense? Like, if it's succinct and complete from heart start all the way out, that's what's going to change the world, not walking through the world going,
that you just acquired is not powering you. You are powering you and the amulet.
Right, exactly. You are powering you and the amulet. Words are the same way, which is why I think when, say, you and I have a tendency to be very facetious, we are very much people who don't mind a bit of self-depreciating humor and things like that. It doesn't really hurt us because we're not putting power behind those words. We're just having fun with those words. Sorry, tangent. This is something that I want to bring back up again. I don't know if you saw this a few years ago. This was like probably 2017, 2016. I did a couple of videos on how a lot of the personal development world and a lot of the teachings of, law of attraction and blah, 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 which we know is incomplete, but a lot of what's out there, this sort of weird, streamlined streamlined, diluted for the masses, CBT, married to spirituality, isn't really good for everybody. It doesn't serve everybody. It actually only serves a couple of what you might call mental challenges, and it's geared almost specifically towards people in the PTSD, depression, sometimes cluster B kind of world. And for people with, say, ADHD or OCD, those of us who are a bit more on the more neurodivergent side of things, even anxiety and things like that, it actually is very harmful for us to work with that, because it's like, fight your thoughts, change your thoughts. A person with ADHD is already doing that. They're constantly in a battle with their thoughts and their attention and their direction. They're already doing that. Telling them to fight more is just going to, twist them up even more. People with OCD very clearly are fighting their thoughts. They developed that at a very young age, especially if they're boys. They've probably been doing it since they were 4 or 5. A lot of the things that we are getting celebrated because it's easier to sell something that is focusing on a pain than something that's going to fulfill a desire. It's actually pretty not good for the vast majority of people.
I don't see a situation where we have any more credit for spirituality and psychology of convenience. Okay. We're finding that CBT doesn't hold the weight. Okay. We want the script. We want it to change the mind, change everything. Well, there's more going on than the mind. There's more to the mind than the mind presents to you. Right. So we have to address this desire to only embrace the depth of spirituality at the level of convenience. And you see it with the love and light crowd. Okay. Is there a greater hypocritical crowd in our field, in our realm, than the love and light crowd? The love and light crowd are the ones that basically, espouse these wondrous, divine, loving statements, followed by maybe they're going to kick out the tenant who's 3 days late for paying the rent. Love and light, but we say the right things and we think that that's enough, or we think the right things and that's enough. And that's where the idea that you are really trying to drive home here is the fact that spiritual practice is practice. And we need to lean more towards that 10,000 hour idea of becoming proficient than okay, let me open to page 2 and I'm done. because that we want the instantaneous fix.
I'm a coach now because I spent $200 at a Best Western and I feel really good. This is where words don't have power unless we want to say the power to deceive, because there's this issue where people are kind of trying to create this idea of everything is spiritual. Okay, yes, that's true. That's true. But that can also be seen as a bit of a straw man, because we're not looking at applied metaphysics with everything. When I say applied, I mean going out, using your energy and directing your spirit, working with the elements, working with the energies of the earth and the land and the stars and everything, going into a space where you are a spiritual practitioner versus maybe somebody who is doing the bare minimum and calling it the completion of your spiritual practice. And that is the deception, because I could say writing in my journal is my spiritual practice. It's not unassailable, but it's also something that could be seen as technically true. But I feel like that gross oversimplification has also been the problem when it comes to keeping a lot of people in a state of this sort of looping spiritual infancy and this sort of looping these vicious cycles with their emotions. We're even seeing this when it comes to the people that are celebrated as sort of like thought leaders and spiritual leaders out there, which is kind of like, no, wait, hold on a sec. The cracks are starting to show. Excuse me. You're actually just coming, you've created this way of monetizing your healing journey or your recovery journey. And you did a little bit of research and you're just kind of making it up as you go along. And not only are you making it up as you go along, but in some sick places, some sick circles, you're also trying to turn it into a goddamn social movement or a political movement. This has been coming up a lot in my readings. It's very basic. It's very basic witchcraft. It's this understanding of maintaining harmony of the four elements in everything. So everything in life, everything that is manifested, everything in existence is in some fashion an amalgam that could be syncretized with the four Western classical elements: earth, air, fire, and water. We're just going to focus on those for now. We'll maybe bring in the Eastern ones in another talk. And so you've got earth, of course, there's the foundation, the continuity, the longevity, the health, as well as any kind of structural support that might need to be there. Air, that's the intelligence, that's communication, that's insight, epiphany, inspiration, and imagination. You got fire, the passion, the drive, the action, the energy, and any kind of kinetic force that you might need there that air is not supplying. And then you've got water, of course, the connector, the conduit, the emotions, but also the bond, the sentiment, the lifeblood of it all. And what seems to have happened.
And the dissolver.
And the dissolver. And also the gateway between worlds. So many people have been without balance in these things. Look at any creation, any kind of manifestation, any aspect of reality in your life, your job, your family, your relationships, your house, your body, anything along those lines. If one of these things is out of balance, you will never be able to overcompensate for one element being out of balance by getting more of another, right? You can, if there is no love or connectivity in a family, right? There's an absence of water. You're never going to tape that back together by piling on material things with earth. If you are in a relationship and there is no intellectual rapport, there is no intellectual connection, that we can't even be friends, we don't inspire or stimulate conversation, our conversations are always dull and mundane and superficial, that's an absence of air. We're not going to be able to fix that by getting more emotional with water or getting more passionate with fire, because it is the intellectual stimulation and the intellectual rapport that holds a relationship and a connection together. And usually when those things go away, the friendship or the relationship or whatever it is drifts apart. You cannot make up for a lack of passion for a business or a career by thinking you're just being really, really smart and trying to, do mind games with yourself, to make up for the lack of fire with more air. So we're in a space right now where we've noticed that a lot of people have been taught to do just that, though. If you don't have this, emphasize this. Okay, so we need more structure in the house. Flood it with water. No, you need earth. You need to ground. You need to be able to organize your life. You need to set up something that is more disciplined and more stable. More emotional intensity isn't going to do a goddamn thing. Or you're really, really intelligent. Okay, this guy's really insightful. This guy's really book smart. Oh, this guy, has done his research, so to speak, or this person has a wide vocabulary he knows how to show off. That doesn't mean he's socially or emotionally fluent or socially and emotionally literate. It doesn't necessarily mean that he may have a whole lot of information or a whole lot of facts, but guess what? There are a lot of people out there that have a lot of intel and a lot of research under their belt, and they miss the point entirely. And that's the problem with, an excess of air. It's like, this guy may have the facts right, but he knows nothing of nuance. He has no idea how to be creative. The other three elements are out of the picture. All he is a graveyard of other people's ideas.
Knowledge is really not power unless there's the other factors in play, unless there's willful, intentful action in play with the knowledge. Knowledge by itself doesn't do anything.
No, it doesn't.
Maybe we need an elemental status check, okay? And I think what you talked about there, the overcompensation, that's kind of epidemic right now. I think that's a serious problem that needs to be corrected pretty quickly. So I'm glad you brought it up. But the elements they have distinctions. They are distinct in their being. Yes, they can shift in the other states of matter or the other element, classical element, but they need to function distinctly together. And where do we see the paradises in the world, Nico? Where all the elements are in harmony.
And we're seeing that with a lot of these founts of these repositories of knowledge. And yet at the same time, I don't think they're being crushed by the weight of their own genius. I think they're being pulled apart by their own imbalances that maybe they've just been trying to mask from too many people for far too long.
I think that's an important statement. The ivory tower is no longer a secluded spot up on the hill.
Or maybe it was made of chalk the whole time.
And I think it probably was, frankly.
We know.
So here we are, but there's a place for them. There's the place for the data miners, right?
There is. There is a place. There's a place for everything.
We need to get out of our heads and get our feet on the ground and connected to everything. Okay, the mind, body, spirit, the holistic approach. We've heard these before, but we're not following through. We're being hypocritical. We are stuck in simplistic theory here. We're not in the realm of application as you speak. We want to just leave it at that and leave it as a good idea or a nice idea. But okay, the idea for it to manifest what we would consider an acceptable, really sound spiritual practice is going to require depth of practice repetitively.
If it were something that was keeping people out of trouble and we just had to pen a lot of people over there because that was it, that's as good as it gets, I get it. But the truth of the matter is that it's actually creating a lot of collateral damage.
We aren't willing to become those kind of nodes within. We want to just be so ego focused, and we do need to branch out. There is a need to branch out, and it's calling us, and it's pretty much forcing us. I mean, you've seen the shoes drop this past couple of days, the ancestral just convergence that was occurring. I'm sure people picked on, too well. And the fluctuation at this moment is akin to what I found 3 years ago. I thought July 2019 was going to be one of those another warp jumps. And then we saw what happened later in the year that kind of quelled that. So here we are again, 3 years later, and here's the opportunity again to not just create a new timeline, but to go into the timeline we already created that's waiting for us. We've already done that work.
I think that this is still a bit of a jump. I think that there is that warp in there. But I think that what's different about the energy of 2022 and 2019 is that I think the intention for a lot of this new age awakening stuff has lost its momentum. It's lost its fuel. And when I say that, I mean to say that there has always been this sort of acceleration. There has always been this focus on, again, massive spiritual evolution all happening. But I think that a lot of what's been purported by the New Age was part of this organized intention. I would say you could equate that as something that's akin to social engineering or social constructivism. And it attempted to ride a lot of the energies that were already here. However, it was so focused on, in our last conversation, we talked about, remediation. It was so focused on remediation that it actually missed the bar. And we had a lot of issues with, a lot of dis-ease that got into the very idea of that notion or of that community or of that intention, right? Politics. We also saw a whole lot of greed, a lot of, hyperfixation on prosperity gospel, a lot of the elevation and recreation of identification with trauma and the shadow. And so there's, and of course that enacted itself, and nobody developed any spiritual skills. That's why everyone's talking about intuition and empathy like there's something spiritual. I'm sorry, the gift of having a hunch and the gift of being able to feel what another person's feeling, that's not it, Chief. That's not really a psychic ability. That's just you paying attention to something other than yourself. I guess kudos. I'm sorry, your mom has been just like full on in this house. And I'm loving it.
My mother is in the house. So
yeah.
Throw the picture up, but yeah, I hear. Look, there's so there's a difference between I have a sense of what's to come, and something that I know have engaged in terms of fragmenting your consciousness and geolocating it in 3 places. You've done this and other type things. So yes, if you want to stay at the level of intuitive empath, good luck to you, because the energy is so charged right now that if that is the hat you're going to wear, it's going to be drenched in rain.
Well, and I think that is something to look at. It's sort of, all right, well, what has happened? How has the intention of creating this huge container for this global spiritual awakening lost its way? And I think a big part of it has to do with the fact that this is supposed to be a school and a temple, and it somehow got turned into a mental hospital and an infirmary. And so all of a sudden, nobody's really studying or learning. And I mean, yes, every college, every university, and yeah, to a certain degree, every abbey and every temple is going to have a space for healing. You got to have that. But you can't overrun every class, every ceremony, every ritual, every opportunity for advancement with people coming in and demanding healing and babysitting and hand-holding, and again, more remedial activity, because it would be like going into a lecture. Like, say you and I were attending a lecture at Columbia University or something, and somebody decided to run in during that lecture and demand everyone drop everything and do surgery on them. That's not what we're here to do. We're attending a lecture. We're here to learn. We're here to advance our skills. We are here to further embody the paranormal, supernatural, and divine aspects of ourselves. You don't get to run in and make everything about your sickness. That is, again, another form of wounded narcissism. I think that because that has been not only enabled, but even empowered by the very intention set to create this idea of a global awakening, is going to pull a lot of these sort of movement ideas apart. But I do think now that we should just let it go, because as somebody who spent the last, few years trying to observe, connect, try to make positive change from the inside. And I'll admit, I mean, at the end of it there, 2019, 2020, I was like, I can't do this. This is killing me. The very people that think I'm here to serve them are the ones that are ripping my life apart. And so I decided to change things a little bit. I was like, you know what? Instead of trying to open more and give more energy and try to be more sympathetic and try to be more enabling. Or no, that's not what that's not what I thought I was doing.
Well,
I was like,
that's a consequence.
yeah. And so I was like, I'm gonna just, you know what, mask off. I'm gonna show you how I think. And then if you recall, for about a half a year there, I went I went full on, let's just talk about things as they are, spiritually, multidimensionally, and people hated me for it. They talked the talk, so I thought that they were ready, or they could hear me, or they could understand, or they could connect. Honey, they were just talking the talk. Don't tell me words have power.
Everyone's BS is getting called out. Okay. Yeah. Part of this shift is all your BS is getting called out.
I think that when you see the difference between what you think something is, and then you find out like, oh my God, actually, I've just been borrowing the vernacular and the vocabulary and chiseling away the top level of powder on this iceberg, which is, by the way, very new powder. It's not old powder. That's
now just a Wi-Fi extender for the corrupted New Age movement. Congratulations. Yeah. It's representative of the human condition. I mean, humans want, they want their monarch, they want their king, they want their guru, they want the guy, the one, the savior, all of that. That has not escaped the New Age movement, and it could have, but again, the New Age movement was co-opted by all this, egocentric and destructive narcissistic garbage that just became a marketplace for whatever. Look, when we get to the timeline that we built, that was waiting for us to get through our crap that we delayed for excessively for no damn good reason, the question is, what are we going to do to prevent the corruption from setting back in?
I don't think that it's going to get corrupted again. And there are a couple of reasons I think that. And I think that while we talk about that, we could also clarify to people that might be like, what the hell are these two talking about? So the reason I don't think that there's an opportunity for repeat corruption is because these trends and these cycles are very finite. These kinds of, this is something that has been going on, or at least the corruption and the malignance and all of that kind of stuff has been going on, most notably, as far as I'm observing, since about the end of 2014 and going on into 2015. And these things tend to follow the trend, but there's always a lifespan to think about here. People who are talking the talk and getting nowhere, or maybe are outsourcing their productivity, their sense of success, their wellness, or whatever you want to look at, to the corporate world, or to social media, or to politics, or to conspiracy theories, or to cults, or to ego masses that demand conformity, all of that kind of stuff. People like that are already noticing that it's not paying off for them. They're going to move on. Where they're going to move on, I don't know. Maybe they will move on to some kind of new obsession. Maybe someone will, I do think some of them are going to step back, funny enough, because I think that what you're talking about is a transference moment from organized religion. It's a transference moment from a lot of more highly regulated relationships and highly regulated family structures and highly regulated, ironically, it's the people who say no more regulation that want that. But there's this, there's a throwback to that. And I think that because these people are coming at this from a place of a wounded craving for structure and control, yes, you're right, to be ruled by a king and to feel protected by mommy, or protected by daddy, or protected by, an abuser, or whatever they're into, that they're gonna go and look for that. And I think that a lot of them are probably going to take a huge step back when they find the church, or the pod, or the ego mass that takes them away from the social media, and it becomes a lot more intimate. And I think that, if that's all they want, and they get what they want, and they don't do any collateral damage, right? Because everyone's always like, let them have their journey. The bitch took their journey right on my front lawn. I'm sorry. Now it's my journey too. I'm your boss battle. Don't journey up, and watch where you're going on your journey, because some of us you know.
Yeah, exactly. Be cognizant. You may not want to go to that property. You may want to, be polite. Greet properly. Don't be don't be the bull in the china shop.
So the biggest distinction people I think need to make is that this is a way of life. It's not a lifestyle. This isn't a distraction. This is and healing is really only like 5% of it, and it's supposed to be on an ad hoc basis. It's not supposed to consume it. You're hooked on the meds. Think about it.
That's the collateral damage of the New Age movement. It's basically turned some people away from a authentic spiritual practice because of all that bull crap. We do know that 2015 was, let's say, a designation point to when we basically shifted into the adverse timeline that we found ourselves in. That was a highlighting point. The avatar of chaos venturing down the escalator as it was injected to the collective order in order to bring about, raise all the unresolved psychic crud, so to speak, for reevaluation, consolidation, integration. And 2015, in my opinion, Nico, was really when all of this took hold.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm wondering if you agree with that sentiment.
I agree. I think that as a lot of this stuff picked up a momentum in, say, 2012, 2013, especially 2013, when things were actually really, really good, it was beautiful. And I think that what ended up happening was, as all of this stuff was starting to really sink in, right, really become a part of the real spiritual experience, right? It was people actually living a magical life. I think that what ended up happening was this 2015 shit started getting really kicked up because there was an effort, I believe, to malign what was going on. I mean, you can't really malign it, but you can slow people down. You can stop people, you can derail them, you can get them to quit, or you can get them stuck, or you can get them to do your dirty work. And I think a lot of what was happening was a lot of these people who were already, maybe immoderate with their choices, immoderate with their energy, immoderate with their emotions, ended up sabotaging something that they believed they loved. A parent driving away the child, so to speak. This sort of, there was something impure about the love that everyone was giving to the idea of spiritual awakening. There was something very tainted about 2015 and 2016, especially when it came to this sort of amplification of the idea of salvation consciousness, which again is a carryover or a transference from organized religion, from fundamentalism. And I'm not saying any one religion, because plenty of them have something like that. It's just this idea where we decided that, well, not we, I didn't, you didn't, but as a collective, there was sort of this decision to sort of be like, well, let's just hold space and see what happens. And a lot of these people weren't even doing anything new. They were just adopting a lot of spiritual terms they didn't know how to use. It was like watching somebody try to represent themselves in court. And then it ended up in a situation where people thought that they were discovering things when really in actuality it was stolen from indigenous people. It was stolen from indigenous people. It was stolen from pagan practices. It was stolen from living spiritual paths. Yes, some of this stuff is relatively new, but not as much as you think. We've got this combination of the new and the old coming together. But when you are, again, nuts, and now you're thinking all of this stuff that's stolen is somehow, you're going to try and sell it like you've reinvented the wheel, or you're going to sell it like you're obviously on the wrong side. You're a part of the dark movement here. You're a part of the distraction. You're a part of the next effort to control. Okay, we can't stop people from awakening, but what if we created a playground that caps out how far they're going to go, and we're going to call it the New Age?
Put it in a box, let it rip. And I'm of the opinion, Nico, that the holding of the space from the 2015 and 16 led to a great vulnerability to really unwanted attachments things of that nature, from just really not letting go of the gas in terms of maintaining this kind of neutrality so the whole damn system didn't break down. I found 2017 to be a vulnerable point. I found myself with some undesirable attachments coming into purview. That's all getting cleared, as I see it. But as we throw these dates out too, I'm kind of just saying, hey, think about that time frame, people. 2015, what was going on? What can be gained? What can be learned? Because again, we're going into a timeline we've already constructed.
Well, and I think that this is where the shift, like I said, I don't see 2015 happening again, because I think it was a one-shot deal. And the problem is that you were trying to build a world for incompetence by incompetence. And yeah, it made life hell for everyone else. But guess what, guys? You know, we don't have to take care of them anymore. We don't have to be the blood bags, you know, or the energy feeds. We don't have to be the babysitters and the caretakers. You know, this is about doing what you want to do. This is about letting go of any kind of gaslighting you may have had from your own upbringing or your own life, your own social pressures, whether it's coming from your schools, your churches, your families, your communities, or your, you know, anything that might have been a role model in your life that maybe wasn't a very good role model, but maybe a non-example. You are now getting a chance to kind of go, no, I'm clipping this. You know, I mean, we all talk about this, you know, this purge. We're also getting a lot of ancestral karma cleared from us right now. And when we talk about ancestral karma, I also mean an ancestral exorcism, right? This is about clearing out your energy field from, you know, not all of our ancestors deserve, earned, or beget reverence, because guess what? Some of them are assholes. You can trace my ancestry back to Pizarro, conquistadors. I'm not going to sit there and be like one of those morons who's trying to like ride the coattails of a bloodline to make up for mediocrity. You know, I couldn't do it.
Bull in a china shop.
Oh, sorry.
The conquistadors. Did I lose you?
No. I was just like, I thought you were saying that as to me, like too far.
No, not too far. No, it just highlights, you know, it's still bloodline.
So we're clearing out, you know, a lot of
the space help. We're getting the support. You know, the space is going to be help for us. We're getting clearings because we need to be these network nodes that really drive this baby forward.
Yes, and this is again, this is the season of the magical practitioner, and that means getting out of the new age. That means getting out of the poisoned self-help circles that got you hooked on some kind of opiate they're serving you. That means getting away from situations where you have been told you're making progress and you don't see any at all. This is about paying attention to where real relationships, real friendships, real love, real satisfying work have to be something that's realized on the inside, like a real connection. It's not happening just because we identify as with or by something.
You're not going to get that connection if your relationship with spirituality is coping. If you just use spirituality to cope, forget the connection you're talking about. I mean, because you know, I fall into that trap too. I mean, that I've used spirituality as coping. And again, you're running at half power when you do so. When spirituality gets put in a self-created limited box, well, guess what your spiritual life is? Self-limited box. Congratulations on your creation. Would you like to create more? If you want to go in the building and do the thing and follow scripts, you can follow a script.
I mean, can you honestly say any of the relationships, spiritual paths, if you can call them that, friendships or communities built around scripts are really about the relationships themselves, or are we all just patting ourselves on the back for a job well done?
Affirmation quests, they're repeatable and you never run out of them.
Has that ever been appealing to you? I'm gonna ask you, Rob. That's never been suggested.
Affirmation pet. Look, I mean, I could say I've gone through a bunch of different initiatory processes that would, you know, I could kind of expect that guy, like, all right, supply my affirmation, but no. That's not, I mean, I've been able to sustain authenticity and avoid that, you know, kind of temptation that just, it's a grind that doesn't really it doesn't produce anything of value, really, if you're just chasing affirmation quests.
Right. Affirmation is kind of like nicotine. You know, I don't
Yeah,
smoke cigarettes
exactly.
anymore.
Couldn't agree more. It is definitely nicotine. You know, you're going to see me agree with Nico a lot, okay? Because we're in the same oversoul group. We have these conversations all the time. I mean, I can echo what you're saying because, you know, I found myself, you know, like I said, I'm pretty isolated from the community. I'm in the wilderness, and I just kept linking up with misfits left and right. Okay, and that's what I was encountering, and I'm not as exposed to the broader spiritual community as I'm probably going to be now. And for whatever reasons that took place, I mean,
You're coming in at a good time. The tide's going out, so you'll be okay.
I'm of the opinion, and I've told you this before, that everything that's supposed to happen happens. And when it does happen, it's because it was supposed to happen.
Yeah.
And that's I'm sticking to that one.
You're right. The whole misfit thing, I can't tell you how many people, my audience.
I'm not speaking with a non-endearing term of misfits. It's just I was encountering a lot of misfits on the journey.
Well, no, and I mean, well, I'm a misfit. You know,
I'm a misfit too.
Yeah.
So maybe we're answering the question already.
Yeah, we're definitely misfits. I think that there's just, again, it's not about whether you're a misfit or whether you're not. I mean, yes,
we about misfits that were not spiritually inclined misfits.
Okay, because I mean, we do come from you know, we are at this point, you know, where somehow a lot of the New Age movement adopted a lot of the politics of the day, where it's like you need to punish the outliers, which again I think is just about people trying to, I don't know, stay off drugs, drove their kids away, can't keep a man, can't keep a job.
We have demonized outlier. We gave it a subject value it had no business being given to.
Which is ironic because people love Keanu Reeves and he's one of the biggest outliers there is in Hollywood.
So Nico, 444 on my end. I'm thinking this is a proper closing memento.
Yeah. Okay.
For our initiatory video exchange.
Yeah, just welcome. Get to know us. This is who we are. Nico and Rob talking.
If we freaked you out, scared you, church is right around the corner.
Yeah.